So far in the triangle, documented, there's been 50 ships that have gone down and 20 planes that have gone down. But
Wouldn't you think that that would also occur in other parts of the world? And the Earth is mostly ocean.
Natural gases that they don't know about.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're gonna be under a hallucinogen. Maybe it causes them like frantic reaction, makes them delusional, thinking that they're lost. They don't know which side's up.
So the zone of silence, have you heard of that? It's in Mexico. It's an area. So we don't need to go that's another podcast another day. But
that one is crazy, yeah.
It and the Bermuda Triangle and the pyramids in Egypt are all on the same. I think it's 26th to 28th parallel, which is really interesting.
The Bermuda Triangle, what I found weird was there was a lot of unanswered stories, based on, a lot of people hypothesizing like, oh, it's, it's aliens, or it's it's based on there's methane that comes up like from the ocean.
A lot of theories.
Or, a lot of theories. But when you get down to it, I think down there the weather is super unpredictable. In that part of the world, it can legitimately be raining in the front yard and be sunny in the back. Weather comes in very fast.
But come on, I mean, it's the ocean, it's the open ocean. Wouldn't you think that that would also occur in other parts of the world? And the Earth is mostly ocean, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, why is it that this particular region of Earth, you have all this kind of, I wouldn't say hysteria, but like it's very well more known popularly, I guess, than other parts. I'm sure people just disappear in other parts of the ocean, is my guess.
There's it's the Dragon's Triangle, I think, over off of China, off of in the China Sea, where the Chinese government has actually said it's a
dragon
part of it's supposed to be the kind of the Pacific Ocean Bermuda Triangle, but it's called the Dragon's Triangle, and it's off of the China Sea somewhere.
I don't know much about that. Do you know enough to say like whether it's comparable in numbers and things like this?
So I forget the numbers in terms of like downed ships and downed planes, but it's very comparable in terms of like weird shit that goes down over there.
Interesting.
Yeah. And like some of the stuff, like they had what was it, flight who was the 5 fighter pilots from during the 1940s? I forget what the case was, but there were 5
Flight 19.
Yeah. Anything that was built to fly in the 1940s, you're really gonna trust instrumentation. I mean, all that shit was built, like any plane that was built for World War II was built super fast. More pilots died in World War II in training than they did in combat. A lot of like what happened, I could see easily just putting to, they ran out of gas, they made a wrong turn, they got turned around.
Yeah, but a lot of these incidences are no distress call, or even, hey, checking in, we're fine, and then boom, gone, bye. Yeah. And how about entire ships that are just sitting there with no people on board?
That was that
was like that.
Weird. That was the strangest. Those ships, that was the strangest one. How one of those ships ended up from like off the Bahamas somewhere, and then it's now sitting off the coast of Ireland.
So you got a couple things in a row there. So Flight 19, man, like you got 5 planes. So you got a whole all 5 of them. it seems to me like it was a routine training op. They were just doing they're patrolling. So you got 5 planes, all 5 disappear, calm seas, calm weather, right? It's all recorded too because it's a modern age. We have radar, we have these things that actually radically increase during the war, as technology tends to do. And then they disappear, so then they send out a rescue plane right afterwards, and then that plane goes down.
Yeah.
Further, like when you start thinking about like issues with the plane, it's hard pressed, especially for it being a routine flight where they were only going to go out for a certain amount of time. It was a scheduled flight. They stayed together squadron for all 5 planes that disappear, all 5 of them without a trace, and then to send a rescue plane after, which was a seaplane, and send that out when this whole crew as well completely disappeared with relatively modern technology, and there being no trace of, first of all, no trace of bad weather.
Yep. Is this the same?
Interesting.
Is this the same one where they thought that the lead pilot they all got kind of like disoriented, supposedly, and then the lead pilot was like, "We don't know what's going on," and they ran out of gas? Or is that a different?
Yeah.
one?
So during there was one article that I found that was saying that the lead pilot that over the radar, or not over the radio, over the radio, they heard him say, when we now have under 10 gallons of gas, then we're all going to kind of go down together, and we're going to tighten up, go down together. So everyone is kind of, so they're not spaced out, hopefully they all, like, I think they were, or he was probably thinking, we're all going to go down and we'll just kind of like float out together, but there was reports of them having the idea of going down as soon as they were under 10 gallons of gas.
But let's think of that for a second. Like, if that's true, you're trained pilots. You're going out for a training on like bombing stuff or whatever, routine shit, and you get so disoriented that you don't even know where you are or what's going on in the middle of the ocean. And in reality, you're probably not farther than probably a couple 100 miles off some coast somewhere, right? And then that happens. So in a situation like that, what does it take? I think it takes both malfunction to some extent, maybe some magnetic anomalies happening that is changing compass signals, or I should say, perhaps disorientation to the extent that some type of substance is maybe perhaps altering your mental state. That's kind of my take.
Ooh, like maybe they're sucking in fumes.
Yeah, something like maybe naturally, right?
Natural gases that they don't know about.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're gonna be under a hallucinogen.
One thing that was interesting to me was that, like, the
maybe
zone
it causes them like frantic reaction, makes them delusional, thinking that they're lost, they don't know which side's up.
Right, because one of the theories is like excessive methane gas expulsion from like the water, right? Says deep down in the ocean, and we don't really know whether this is true or not, obviously, but we know obviously methane gas can escape from the ocean and from glaciers and things like this. And what if it could be that randomly some huge amount of methane, just like a bubble, comes up out of the ocean, and you just happen to be in that exact moment? You're going to be tripping like, breathing any other gas or whatever that messed you up, I guess. But,
well, there is proof that it's been seen by many scientists, just objectively, that there is different levels of magnetism in different areas of the world, and it varies. And there was I saw Christopher Columbus when he came through the Bermuda Triangle.
You saw him?
Yesterday, dude.
What's up, bro?
What's up, dude? How'd you kill all those natives, idiot? It's just so that he had a really detailed log, and when he came to the Bermuda Triangle, he fucking he mentioned that his compasses were going crazy and that they were seeing like he like described what sounds like meteors crashing in the water. And it's interesting because he had a very clear record of him sailing like day by day. So like that's interesting. So that
And
makes
it
me
was
think
in the
that that's
Bermuda Triangle area, right?
definitely possible. One thing that was interesting that I saw was that, you know, like you guys know the zone of silence. Have you heard of that? It's in Mexico. It's an area. So we don't need to go like, well, that's another podcast from the day. But
That one is crazy, yeah. For
it
sure.
and the Bermuda Triangle and the pyramids in Egypt are all on the same. I think it's 26th to 28th parallel, which is really interesting. It's interesting, like to think about, like, you know, if there is, you know, I was pondering this, and like if you know if there's some like closer exposure to the core or whatever of the earth or whatever it is, but there is definitely a magnetism there. And then like all these kind of crazy things. I mean, we still haven't done a podcast in the Egyptian pyramids, but definitely crazy, definitely considerable. You definitely considers like some extraterrestrial involvement there. And then like the zone of silence in Mexico is basically like a magnet for like rocks coming, asteroids and meteors and all this other strange stuff. And then you got the Bermuda Triangle right on that line. It's you know, scientifically you can look at it like it's like a magnetism thing, but like definitely if you had some training pilots going out into the ocean and their navigation equipment took a shit and you're in the ocean. I mean, think about like land navigation. Like, I think if you don't really experience it, you kind of assume it's not as crazy as, but it's really crazy. If you're in the ocean, it's just blue forever in every direction. Like you're really relying on that equipment. Like
That's rough. Fuck yeah, that's rough.
Take note to your Christopher Columbus reference. Not only did he say, "Oh, these fireballs are coming from the sky," like which we attribute to asteroids, like you mentioned, but a week or two later, he mentioned another thing in the same area in which lights came just out of the ocean, right? So I think you're able to distinguish between the two things, right? Like, and the fact that, as you said, it's well documented. He kept a very detailed diary of what was going on. You know, you go all the way back then and you just dismiss it. Oh, it's probably a fucking random meteor that just came down. Yeah, because we see that shit all the time. It just happens all the time, right? We just see that shit, you know. And I don't know. I mean, could it be that there is some kind of technology that is there under the ocean that we're unaware of and pops up from time to time? Thing is, with that area, though, it's kind of shallow in general, right?
Well, no, there's that area. It's not shallow. It's near the deepest one of the deepest parts of the Atlantic, which is the
It's like a big old cliff that
5 miles deep. Yeah, like
yeah,
if
no,
you
no,
get
no,
down there,
but
you never
it
recover.
was like the
but it's like hella shallow, and then all of a sudden that shit happens, right?
It's like the Milwaukee Trench or something, or the mini
Look it up.
I don't know that one.
Like, I mean, the majority of the Bermuda Triangle is like this really gentle grade with silt on the ground, right? And then like Bermuda's like looks like a volcano, kind of. It's like as tall as Mount St. Helens, I think I read. But then that, like Mr. Green said, like when you start getting closer to Florida, there's like where the continental shelf is, and I forget the name of the trench as well. But speaking of, but it's 5 miles deep.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the Milwaukee depth is located.
It's a dramatic
Bermuda
shift.
Triangle, and it's one of the deepest parts in the Atlantic. It's not as deep as the Mariana Trench out in the Pacific.
I think it is the deepest in the Atlantic. I think
it's the deepest in the Atlantic, and the tip of it starts in the Bermuda Triangle.
And like if you read about the Gulf Stream, like you read about scuba divers and stuff going to the Gulf Stream, like they feel that you get hit by it. And like there's like ships that have sunk that like will travel hundreds of miles in the Gulf Stream before they'll settle on the ground, which is really interesting. Like, and that's all right there. So you got that going too.
That reminds you of the USS Cyclops. You know
Right.
that one, right?
Still haven't found that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a crazy ass one, right? Because you're talking about like 300 people.
It's 390.
390.
Yeah.
3 something.
Yeah.
But hella fools, right? On the ship. And it's a pretty famous incident, right? In which they had a bunch of materials like mined materials. I think it was maybe ore or something. That they're gonna make some money or whatever on it. And goodbye. It's gone. See you later. It just disappears. Right. I mean, even back then, in which you have some limited technology to track radar, the fact that everything's fine and shit just disappears is not really the normal thing that you hear about when you hear about planes crashing or ships going missing or whatever. It's a lot of times there's distress calls, right? And these things were equipped for that. And so many instances throughout the Bermuda Triangle in which they had the capability to signal the distress call. Now, is it that some type of magnetism is preventing that from happening? For instance, like you make the distress call and it just doesn't process, or is it just we'll fishing, we're gonna catch the fish, and then boom, just something shit happens just out of nowhere and goodbye. But the fact that those fools are just gone, never found. Even the president of the United States made a statement about this. I think it was Woodrow Wilson. What the fuck is his name? Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson. Can't say that first name. He even made a statement nationwide talking about that incident. Right. I mean, that's a historical significance, and something on the lines like only God and the ocean knows where that boat is. And as if they went to Mars, they just disappeared.
I think during non-war times, that is the biggest loss of life for the U.S. Navy in one incident in non-war time.
It's crazy. It was 1918. It was like it was right at the end or tail end or right after the end of World War One. And it's a wild one. You guys follow that guy Bruce Gernon? I think it was his name. I mean, I looked it up earlier. That wrote the book The Fog.
Oh, I totally want to talk about this one. Absolutely.
Now, see that just to preface whatever, some guys probably gonna know way more about than me. But essentially, he wrote a book because he's a non-believer, whatever. He's with 2 other individuals. I forget the relation to him, flying through the Bermuda Triangle, and he has this experience, and he feels like he's going into like what almost seems like would look like a vortex, not like we talk about normal like extraterrestrial vortex, but looks like a vortex. And then he's still talking on the radio, and they're like, we can't find you in the radar, radar. And then all of a sudden they find him, and he's flying over Miami, and there's like a 30-minute time lapse of what it would have normally taken for him to gotten there, which is really interesting because we talk about these vortexes, and then kind of like, and we talk about, well, like, we're talking about element 115 and, being able to, basically manipulate time and space. And that's one of like the extraterrestrial theories about the Bermuda Triangle, is that it's a place where you can manipulate time and space, and that he may have inadvertently done so.
I wouldn't say that place is deliberately done from extraterrestrials, but the science behind it could be something that's taken advantage from advanced technology and civilizations that you can do things better with, right? My understanding was that guy. Now, first of all, you have to remember that this guy, that's a scientifically documented incident in which, a passenger plane that can carry like 4 or 5 people or whatever, traveling a couple hundred miles from Florida to some island. I can't remember the island, whatever the fuck it was. It literally would have to be going at one point in time for about a half an hour, 3,000 miles an hour. Okay.
It didn't.
So
line
it,
up, yeah.
you know, something like that. And so it can't happen. You just you you log the takeoff. They take off from the airport. Boom. Then all of a sudden they're here. And in the meantime, la la, hey guys, how's it going? La, something weird's happening here. And they're like, we can't even see on the radar, and they just appear somewhere. To me, that is absolutely clear evidence that some shit is happening. And whether it is natural to the magnetic fields on Earth or not, or whether it be artificially made, I don't know, but something clearly is happening. And you know, his description, like you said, all of a sudden the clouds started forming into kind of like a cylindrical tunnel, and you go through this tunnel almost like a wormhole. But the theory is that these clouds are ionized, and so the electrical field, which is equivalent to a magnetic field mathematically and scientifically, forms some type of field in which these things are possible. I mean, I think it's totally feasible.
More, it's like that it's a like a prime location for them to be able to utilize, like because of whatever, because of the environmental factors that exist there.
You mean the extraterrestrials? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you tap into the energy that's natural to the Earth or whatever planet, right? And that should exist. So why not? That I think is a separate topic in my perspective than a random guy having to do this by accident kind of thing. I don't think extraterrestrials were involved in that kind of incident, or really, I actually don't think, in my opinion, that the extraterrestrials were involved in many of these incidents, maybe by accident. I just think it's some shit that's happening that's a phenomenon that people disregard as, oh, well, look, plenty of people die in the ocean and disappear. Not like this shit, though. This shit's
I mean, like
different.
But I mean, that specific incidents, and then that kind of coupled with Christopher Columbus when he's riding out there. I mean, and like like I brought up earlier, but the zone of silence, these places that you see a lot of, it's like it's getting coupled with there being a lot of UFO activity and these specific places.
Yeah, and
they tap into it.
Well, and so far in the triangle, documented, there's been 50 ships that have gone down and 20 planes that have gone down. But then skeptics will also highlight that that part of the world gets heavy traffic in terms of just airplanes and then cargo ships going back and forth, because you have cargo ships going from the Americas over to Europe and Africa, and then Africa and Europe over to the Americas, and then with the airplanes as well.
I think part of it too. Part of it, encountering the skeptic point of view is that they disappear. Like now, there is a 5-mile deep trench there that there is no way we could, at least with our technology right now, like really explore. Like maybe so there's not. But I mean,
like if shit went down there and then went down into the abyss, you're not finding that shit.
But at the same time, go ahead. Sorry.
Also, with when shit crashes into the ocean, it's not if it crashes in one location, it's not just going to go straight down deep. All these currents are going to spread shit out.
Spread it all.
And then if you I was actually talking to a mathematician. Nobody on this podcast. But they were saying how they can actually
they lie.
That when, let's say, like a plane goes down and there's the plane breaks apart into multiple pieces, you have one wing, right? You can actually calculate the way the wing is going to sink based on if you had like all the calculations of like where it went down and the currents and the weather.
Yeah,
then,
but that's not possible.
But also like it's going to ebb and flow all the way down. It's going to scatter and
it's going to continue to break apart.
It's going to go. It could go miles down the road.
There's been plenty of ships going off the Pacific that you just can't find. I mean, when shit disappears down there, it disappears. You know, the whole ocean is just like one giant black hole that if Mother Nature wants to take it, she's going to take it.
Your
True.
eyes are breathtaking.
She is pretty.
But you know what though? It's true. I bet this shit happens all the time, and it's just not as like, I guess, fantasized or whatever you want to call it about the Bermuda Triangle, because there's an origination of the Bermuda Triangle, right? There's a guy who basically did some research and kind of labeled that way. I don't remember his name. I looked at it
Charles
earlier.
Burlist.
Yeah,
Charles-
it was like it was in the 20th century. I thought maybe even
Yeah,
that big of-
it's a fairly modern book that he wrote.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, let's say that, like, oh, that kind of made it folklore or whatever you want to call it, and you're not paying attention to these other parts. But when I think about the situation about like Flight 19, right, I feel like that is such a bizarre situation in which, okay, we have no knowledge of weather anomalies going on right now. We're going to send our guys out. They all go missing. We're going to send another guy out to go get them. They go missing. They're just gone. They disappear forever. To me, that's the more conspicuous kind of aspect to the Bermuda Triangle. Those kind of anomalies in which you don't see that shit happening now. I want to see a modern day Bermuda Triangle shit.
Yeah. When's
Yeah.
the last case of something missing in that area? We got that? Got any numbers on that? We got any facts on that?
There's been some there's
The
been
end.
some
When's the last one?
Hey, but you know what? A lot of them were during World War II era, and we've talked before about how in certain vortex areas that have been kind of studied that like they're watching the nukes and they're watching the extraterrestrials are watching the nukes and watching this area and that area. That
Well,
they're
have we also
watching them
avoid?
during like right after we use the nukes. It's like there's like high levels of extraterrestrial activity. It's like they were like being, holy shit, you guys just fucking
Maybe they
stop
nuked the ocean and made that canyon.
it. We nuked a lot of shit in the ocean too. Was it the Bikini Islands and all that? But when we were doing all
Bikini.
that, there was a ton of UFO shit that was like well documented. So I was thinking about that too. Like it's like right after World War II, December 45 is when Flight 19 got lost. And like
Right around Roswell time.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's kind of coincidental, all this weird shit.
dude. It could be extraterrestrial. It could just be like some crazy, like magnetic turbine type shit that the meeting of the currents creates some shit. Suck it. You know what it is? I got it. It's the ocean's vagina, and it
Insert
sucks you
here.
in. You get too close to it, and you fall in that one.
And yeah, you're not gonna knock it.
No
close to it,
choice.
you know.
Yeah.
You're not gonna knock it close to that thing.
It's so pretty.
They're all dudes.
They're all dudes.
Yeah.
There's not one woman
Mayday.
that's died
Hey, where did Amelia Earhart die?
No one knows.
Bermuda.
No, yeah, okay. That I know. Sorry. Where is she suspected to have died? Was that in the Bermuda?
No. Somewhere in the South Pacific, because they think there's some people that think that she actually may have been captured by
Cannibals?
Japanese. I think there's
So she landed.
Well,
Nobody knows.
they have no idea. There are some people that believe that she actually made it to some unknown island and just died eventually, succumbed to her wounds. There's one there's one picture that they found that I think recently came up, and it was of a woman's back, and they think that it was they think that it might have been a picture of her back, and they think that maybe she did survive the crash, and maybe she was captured by the Japanese.
How
There's
did
a
it know
bunch
his
of
back? You got a mole on the back?
Hold her back. What do you mean?
No,
her back?
like her back,
standing?
I think she was. It was a picture of her like standing or sitting, but it was of like a silhouette of like her back.
Oh, I know that back. That's
But,
that bitch Amelia.
Sexy ass vertebrates.
Somebody knows
That's-
that.
Somebody knows that bag.
I know.
but-
We need to bring that guy in, star witness, dude.
There, there's a lot of
I don't. No, man, I don't know that bag.
no, but there was
I'm married, dog. Shut up.
Never-
The
never seen
eyewitness account.
they found some wreckage off some island that I think that they were saying were like was part of her plane or something, or there's still a lot of scientists and researchers that are like actively trying to figure out what the hell happened to it.
Why?
That would be really interesting.
I hope there's an afterlife.
Just
I want answers.
But
You know what
how much
fucking happened?
research? You spend all this money in research for what? What happens when they figure it out? Nothing gonna change.
I
no,
wanna know.
no, but if you're a
I don't give a fuck.
millionaire, if you're a millionaire and you're bored, why not?
Well, sure. I mean, if I just
I mean,
have
I wanna
digital
know.
waste.
I want to
Think
happen.
about
I
it,
want to
dude.
happen to Grassy Knoll. I want to happen to Roswell. I want all that shit.
Well, we do.
Well, yeah, I don't
we
care
do.
about Amelia Earhart so much.
But
man.
imagine this right now. This is the perfect time. I was saying this the other day. Like, now is the greatest time to come clean and come clear with all of the Earth's secrets, and no one gives a fuck. So let's say they found out they're releasing all this documented shit, disclosed shit about aliens, about Trump tried to get the JFK shit out there. If they came out and they were like, we figured out the Bermuda Triangle, some of us would care. These idiots would be like, yeah, put it on TikTok and I'll catch it.
Exactly. That's
Like,
Hey.
nobody gives a fuck, dude.
nah. Yeah, for
So,
real.
Have you ever scrolled through like reels? Like I'm bored and scroll through reels
Nope.
on Instagram.
Nah. Oh yeah. On
Yeah,
on
I'm saying,
Insta,
like,
or
Yeah, Instagram. Like a third
Half
of
the
the
booty
videos are
cheeks
like
out.
just chicks trying to be famous. They're like,
Look at my ass.
it's
Look at
so
my-
whack, dude.
look at my
It's so
tits. Look at my- yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like
it's so pathetic. Like,
and I
how
always
bad
get
they're
irritated when I
looking-
get the
they're
ones with like 32, 38 views. I'm like, I don't watch this shit.
looking-
Hey, so
But you're not gonna say like, all right, I didn't like that one. This
So
chick's
they're-
booty
they're-
is saying-
Sometimes they're dumb, man.
so dumb. Like my
Yeah.
boyfriend pretended to break up with me, and here's my butt.
Like
Hey,
this one
This
right
is
now
some-
where they played the song and they're going like this,
Nah.
Yeah.
and then they'll show a video of them saying something, and it'll be like me knowing this, and it'll be like the song it is exactly what it was. It was like me not being a teenager anymore, and now my mom is my best friend, and then it scrolls over to
What?
her and her mom doing this, and it's
my
like
God.
187,000 likes, some shit. I'm just
Oh
like,
my god.
what the?
That just shows
fucking
you how
fuck?
stupid people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
I
our
like-
newer
I hate-
generation
I
is
like that.
fucked, dude.
they're fucking.
fucked.
Uh,
Teach your
so-
kids the right way right
so-
now, because we
wait.
got some morons out there
Wait.
big time.
back to the triangle. So there has been,
Yeah.
I think
Pythagoras.
the most recent modern
Law of
case that
cosines.
at least I could find was a ship called the Alta.
What year?
They actually found it just a couple years ago in 2018 on the coast of Ireland. So it drifted
Oh,
from the
right.
Bermuda Triangle all the way up and landed on the coast of Ireland. When it landed, nobody was on there. And if you look at the route of like
That's some weird
where
shit.
the ship has, so it was a cargo ship, but it's been all over the world. And occasionally, modern
Pirates.
ships can turn on and off their, like, not their SOS, but they're like their whatever their mechanical
A distress signal.
Like a
No,
SOS,
no,
but
no,
new
no.
school.
not a distress signal, but it's
GPS?
how it's they can turn off their GPS so nobody can track them. Okay. When ships do that, when giant cargo ships do that, somebody online was saying a lot of that is typically signs of like some like sketchy shit going on,
Pirates.
right? Pirates or something.
Honestly.
Pirates.
You know,
For real though.
so
Hey, give me your money, your booty.
someone was saying how like the ship has been all over the world, and periodically it'll kind of like, radar will be turned off and then it'll be turned on. Okay, it was.
It's
over
all
the
back
years,
on. We all
right?
got that right.
Right. But nobody had since it the ship was seen abandoned in the Bermuda Triangle, I think by a U.S. I don't know if it was a U.S. Navy ship but it was found abandoned, and then it was actually found beached up in Ireland, and no one yet has actually come out and claimed that was theirs, or they abandoned it, or they're the rightful owner of it.
I wonder what was on that ship with the cargo.
Well, and whoever claims ownership of it has to fly up to Ireland and actually like tow it off the beach. Like that's their property.
It's not worth it. It's just
Yeah.
fucking toilet paper.
Yeah, like I wonder what's on it, dude. Like, are there cargo missing?
Dude,
Is there cargo missing?
think about that. Like, it drifted from the Bermuda Triangle up to fucking Ireland, like 1,300. Fuck, what was I just said? It was like 1,300 miles.
But you know what? For sure, though, I think like even me, I don't fully understand. Like, what is the typical person out there understand about flow currents in the fucking ocean? The ocean is so goddamn massive, humongous.
I would assume the captain would.
What?
I would assume the captain of the ship like would understand, like, you know,
To some extent, but
turntable and
not
stuff.
not like a guy who's a PhD, like all he does is study flow currents or something, right?
Well, and like now, like
and
the
they
Nah,
change so
sure
dramatically. They just change from day to
naval-
day, you know.
yeah, well, and the software that they have is really, really good. But even for how good the software is, you're still gonna see like professional commercial captains going down. You know.
Yeah, it's
Isn't that
unpredictable. It's
crazy?
chaotic.
Professionals, dude. That's
Well,
crazy
dude,
that these
it happens all the
professionals are going
time.
down.
If you go up and like watch
Thank
any
you.
of those like
I'm not there.
Arctic fisherman shows, or the the deadliest catch,
Deadliest
like,
catch. Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
those guys are professional.
all
They know
dead.
what they're doing. They have millions of dollars worth of gear on those ships, and they still fucking go down. They still get caught in storms and go down.
Ocean's a bitch, dude. Like the nature, man.
She'll come up and just bite you. You know, she'll give you crabs if you're not careful.
That
Have you seen-
literally don't get those crabs. Hey, I'll tell you what though, if you want to study the mathematics of the ocean currents and stuff, it's so tied into the atmospheric conditions, and we don't really understand exactly which causes the other, or if they're even correlated at all. You look at this gigantic iceberg that's about to break off in Antarctica.
Yeah.
It's massive. I mean, it's they call it the Doomsday Iceberg. It's gonna fuck up coastal shit big time.
No more Florida.
They didn't have a model for that. I mean, to some extent, this global warming models say this shit's
When is that gonna
happen.
break off?
God damn it.
They're not sure if
What?
they're not sure if it's gonna break off, or they're not sure when it's gonna break.
It's gonna break off
off.
within a week.
Oh, within a week?
That's what I interpret. Yeah, it's about to break off.
Yeah.
They're
It's-
getting broke off.
Hey, so
Yeah,
yeah,
you-
California's gone. Say, hey, you guys, find
Not
high-
just coastal shit. If you live
Just
on the
no,
coast,
Yeah. Most of California is gonna be fine. Florida, Louisiana, they're fucked.
What about my folks living in Cambria?
They're fine.
You say that, Jason.
it's gonna affect everything. To
He
just
said
think
so.
if the ocean was about like 10 feet closer to your house,
Yeah.
and depending on how deep where you are, it could be many feet deeper, like several feet at least.
So New Orleans will be like 20 feet underwater, because
Right, and they're just right
city is
there. Yeah.
right below. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a strange-
Again? Wait, what?
No. If you've ever been to New Orleans, it's literally built underneath or below the ocean.
Below, yeah.
I've been there once for like 3 days.
Yeah, but it's like built
It's-
below the surface level.
Like the ocean is higher than where you're standing,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, that's fucking
I
crazy.
So they're
never,
fucked,
I never
basically.
understood it until I was actually there, and I'm standing on that like on a dock, and I'm like, oh, there's the ocean, and then down there is New Orleans. Okay, now it makes sense.
Oh, really? I never saw the ocean. That's crazy.
I guess my whole point is just go back to it, is that the mathematics of the flow currents in the
Mhm.
ocean, and then you look at weather patterns all of this is chaos theory, really is what it is, because it's very, very unpredictable. We cannot have, think about the guys that are meteorologists that report weather, for instance.
They suck.
These guys are just reporting off computer models. That's all they're
Yeah.
doing. They just
Yeah, we know
they
that.
run a computer model like 1,000 times, and this is the most logical thing that might happen within some percentage of error, and they just say this is what's going to happen. And then different channels have different reports to some extent, mostly the same because they run very similar computer models, but some cases you're like, oh, this guy predicted it a little bit better than the other guy, right? And to me it seems kind of connected to the flow currents, because the flow currents are so chaotic, and I can understand that randomly you just chill in an ocean. I mean, the ocean is fucking psycho.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine
putting on? Can you imagine putting on
Chaos
like
theory.
channel? Oh, chaos theory. Can you imagine putting on like
Jasper.
channel 2 local news one day, and it's like, it's going to be like 75, pretty windy,
It's pretty much.
and then the other channel, it's like
It's gonna be 30 degrees.
completely different.
But that's what I'm saying.
So
When they're
funny.
all off, they're off, and then when they're all on, they're on, and it's because they're running it off AI, and they rely on that.
What if they ran the wrong simulator and channel 5's like, you guys, this is nuts. Like, it's gonna snow today.
Our models are indicating
It's just
So, like,
fucking
3
way off.
inches of snow.
So what's interesting about that giant the ice bar in Antarctica is that nobody really gives a shit, because a lot of people generally are like, all right, that's way down there. I live in Colorado or I live in Utah. How the fuck is that going to affect me? But it's definitely a sign of things to come, I think.
Oh, but dude, look, lots of icebergs have broken off, and you've seen the whirlwind of weather events that have
Yep.
happened. And this is ain't shit compared to what's about to happen.
I forgot how
The
big it
more-
was, though.
It's huge. It's gigantic. It's like, fuck, dude, it's so big. I forgot.
I forgot how, like, because I know that they were comparing it to, like, I forget if it was like the size of like a city or a state, but it was something like,
It's huge. It's like the biggest one ever.
yeah.
And
It's like miles long, right?
oh yeah, it's like at least the size of like a city. Like, I'm sure it's probably like,
This was like
comparable
40
to-
kilometers, dude.
yeah,
40 square.
Says the span more than 40 kilometers across nearly the entire ice shelf are the most pertinent sign of impending collapse.
So
There you
what's a
go.
kilometer to miles?
and then but how thick, right? And then how much water is that volume wise? And so just imagine, how do weather events happen? Let's say a little tiny little storm thing starts happening somewhere, like say Alaska, and then starts drifting towards the Pacific Northwest. That thing's a little bitch when it starts, but then it travels across the ocean. And as it travels across the ocean, it gains all kinds of energy because
Yeah.
it's sucking up all the fumes
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then it becomes a storm or whatever. And if there is more volume of water and the water temperatures change, and they are changing in the extent that's not something that's normal, like imagine all that ice water, it's hella cold, right? That
Right.
shit's gonna drift, and eventually it's gonna get to the warmer waters and cause it to be
That's gonna
cooler.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so
Well, it
many
fucks up the
things that people don't
salinization,
think
too.
about. And then a cloud goes over it, and all of a sudden, whew, some crazy shit happens that's not normal to what we have been alive, but perhaps that is just a normal thing that happens
But
in the
the
it,
Earth
grand
knows the
history of
Earth-
things, you know?
it
It's
will
gonna
directly
devastate
affect
us, but
like, it will directly affect us. Like there's been times when the California crab season had to
Mhm.
be delayed or canceled because the water temperatures are too warm and it just not enough inventory. Like it will affect.
Well, they protect
certain
future
economies.
generations too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and salmon is a big thing. You want salmon? Get it now, dude, because salmon about to be bye-bye.
Ho!